Alright guys, so in this video, I'm going to be doing a rendering versus real life. I did one of these before where we take a look at the renderings of stadiums versus what actually comes out of them. And yes, normally the rendering is better, but it is interesting to see how some of these stadiums, even more modern ones, do see changes from the rendering to the final result. The first one, it is SoFi Stadium, the most expensive stadium in history. You can take a look. The first renderings released back in 2015. And the one thing that I notice about these renderings, a very clear roof, extremely clear, almost looks like it's completely see-through. The other thing that's interesting, you've kind of got that weird upper deck section that really never ended up happening. So they changed the seating overall in the upper deck right there. That's another photo. You can just see how clear the original renderings were of this. And there's another one that was before they knew that they were getting the Rams. They just put on the rendering an NFL logo. But yeah, they changed the seating around a little bit, and it seems like tinted the roof just slightly in the final result. You can see the final look at it. They've got that ring circle, futuristic Jumbotron in the center. And just overall, it is a little bit dimmed when looking at the roof. Next, it is the Hard Rock Stadium renovation. I'll be honest, I think the actual final product looks better than the renderings. The renderings look really out of place. They did a bunch of stuff. They really changed this stadium around. They took out some seating, gave the seats a different color, added 4 separate little scoreboard Jumbotrons, and then the most expensive thing they did was install the 4 overhangs over the entire stadium. You can just kind of see the design of it right there. And then looking at the final product, I think the final one looks a little bit better. I am a little bit surprised they didn't decide to do some type of retractable roof. With it being Miami, dealing with some rain and things like that, I would imagine it was a budget issue if you were to put a retractable roof. What would be interesting? If they would have done something like T-Mobile Park, to where the stadium is still open air, but you just put a roof on it. I think that would really be fine for Miami, considering they have really good weather, really warm weather, and you're just dealing with rain. So if they would have done that, that would have been interesting. But they end up just going with kind of the overhang, which is, I believe, one of the more modern things we're going to see. A lot of European soccer teams do it. It'll cover a lot of the fans from the elements while also maintaining the outdoor vibe, which is what everyone is trying to go for when it comes to the modern stadium. You can see it there at night. So I think very, very nice job on those renovations. This is State Farm Stadium, which was originally University of Arizona stadium. And just looking at the old renderings, this thing was built in 2008. I mean, what is that? It's just those old renderings. That's like the old Adobe or something. That's funny. But there you can see the design, the revolutionary, model that they were showing off, where the field comes out and gets natural sunlight and then gets wielded back in underneath the stadium. They always, that was one of the things they highlighted when it came to the Super Bowl. There's kind of a more in-depth HD version of what it's going to look like. It looks pretty nice. You've got kind of the open area over top. The issue with that is, with a retractable roof in a place like Arizona, you need virtual perfect 1 in a million type weather. If you're dealing with any type of humidity, they'll just have the thing closed and climate control it for 72 degrees. It's never going to rain in Arizona, but it's just the heat is the issue. That's why it's barely open for any NFL home game. And then there is the final result. I am not the biggest fan of State Farm Stadium. The interior of it looks pretty... I don't know. I just don't like it very much. To me, it hosts events mainly because it's in Arizona. It just does not look good. The seating with the gray and red stripes, I don't like. I think that's tacky. The way the stadium actually gets wielded in and wielded out, it makes the one end zone look really bad because they have to make those seats movable, and it almost looks completely unfinished, so I also don't like that. I understand you're doing something cool. You're getting the, field natural light, but, you're sacrificing a little bit just to do that. Next, it is the Washington Nationals. Yes, this was the original design for the Washington Nationals in the District of Columbia. Looks like your run-of-the-mill mid-1990s progressive field, Oriole Park, Coors Field design. You've got the right field upper deck. They did end up modernizing the design to what it is today. And you can see, I always do say with Nationals Park, it does look like an extension minor league stadium. It's just really bland to me. There's not one thing that really stands out about it. It does kind of have a weird batter's eye at an interesting angle. But other than that, it's just... they do have the split upper deck, I guess. I don't know. I would say Nationals Park is probably the most average park in the MLB, but the renderings do look very similar to the final product when looking at it. The other thing that's cool about Nationals Park, it does have extremely high press boxes, which could be a bit of an issue because when you're watching on TV, it almost looks a lot more aerial than we're used to seeing at other stadiums, but they did want to, maximize the people that go to the games, give them better seats, so that's why the upper deck seats are lower and the press box is actually on top of the upper deck. So it came out pretty well. Pretty similar renderings. Next, it is AT&T Stadium. So the first super stadium, looking at these renderings back in like 2006, look at the Jumbotron. Look at just the floating seats. It's like they have floating seats. And in these renderings, I guess the window was open in these renderings. You can see right through it. It looks like right to the sky. But yeah, this is basically how it turned out. I mean, there were a few changes. It's a little bare bones, but this was like the first, renderings of anything back in 2006, 2007. And AT&T Stadium, again, I would consider it the first super stadium. I mean, look, that looks like an alien abduction. That is awesome, man. Especially back in like 2007, you were not seeing stadiums built like this. This really was the first super stadium in the NFL, and then you can kind of see how it ended up turning out right there. I would say, yeah, the rendering looks better than that for sure. It's always going to, but still it looks really, really cool. And I do think AT&T Stadium maybe a little bit underrated. A lot of people don't like the Cowboys. They're a polarizing team. But when I look at stadiums, I don't even, think about the team. I just kind of grade it. So, they also do have a really nice see-through natural light section going all the way across above their upper deck, which really gives a nice natural light feel to it. That's what a lot of these kind of retractable roof stadiums that are mainly closed off have. This design is very similar, just in terms of the natural light aspect to the Arizona Cardinals State Farm Stadium. The big difference is they have an extra window that opens, and that window does cause issues during the 4:25 window, which is 3:25 Central Time when they have afternoon games. You will get a glare, and I actually like that aspect of it. I know a lot of people don't like that, but I do like it. But that came out pretty good. So this was the original design for Barclays Center, home of the Brooklyn Nets. You can see the interior of it. This was before the rebrand. So the interior looks the same except for the colors. The colors are completely different, going to the Brooklyn Nets, going to a more black theme with gray. And then there you can see, I mean, dude, we cannot be... Who thinks that looks good? I'm sorry, when you put what looks like overgrown weeds on top of a roof... And this was a mega project. This was $1 billion project, like the first mega project in the NBA. And it looks like, you abandoned the roof. That's what it looks like to me. I just can't get on with the idea of having that type of roof. You can see there are some renderings without the green roof, but they did end up going with the mossy roof. You can see the final product, and it is kind of a weird, design, maybe a futuristic type art thing with a bunch of different little, nooks and crannies in the overall shape of it. So there that is. And then there is the interior. With arenas, you know, they're all very similar interiors. It just comes down to like the seating color scheme. And with the Barclays Center, it's very, very dark. It kind of fits the Nets colors. Next, this is the Golden One Center for the Sacramento Kings. And let me say, I mean, they've got some sweet renderings. This thing opened in 2016, I want to say. And yeah, the Golden One Center, really good arena in the NBA, really modern. They definitely needed a new one. And now with the Sacramento Kings being better, you know, finally making the playoffs, there's a lot of excitement in that city. Definitely, I'll say the renderings look better than the final product, but it still is a really cool new arena that kind of has a nice exterior design. You know, you can see it's kind of got those weird columns that are shaped differently. You know, I think that's cool. And then the interior of it, you can see a smaller, kind of a upper deck that's very far away from the action. A lot of suites. There's like 3 sections of suites and club seating below the upper deck. So that's probably not a positive thing. Normally with NBA arenas, how you want to have it. Man, they have a massive lower bowl too. Holy crap. Maybe that's the modern design. Go with a massive lower bowl, 3 sections of suites, and then the upper deck. I don't know. Normally how I like it, I would do a smaller lower bowl. I would do 1 suite level. I would do a second deck. Then I would do maybe another suite level, then the upper deck, then another suite level on top of it. That would be a crazy design. But the interesting thing about this one, you can see the natural light being let in through the one side. We're going to start seeing a lot more of that with the NBA. This is Lusail Stadium in Qatar. So this was one of the World Cup stadiums. You can kind of see the design. Beautiful, beautiful, almost golden bowl-like. Really, really nice there. I like that design a lot. And I have to give it to them. They perfected it. It looks really good. It looks exactly like the renderings. And this was one of the main stadiums for the World Cup. Of course, you know, with the whole situation in Qatar, really weird, really unique. You know, what's going to happen to the stadiums? They basically built them to be taken apart and to really minimize their capacity because you just don't need 7 or 8 mega stadiums that seat 70,000 in you know, that country. There's no need for it. So I wonder what's going to happen with this one. It was one of the main ones. This is the Olympic Stadium in China for the Beijing Summer Olympics. This was built back in 2008. I call this the Bamboo Stadium. Other people call this the Bird's Nest. It's just the design of it. I think it looks like curved bamboo. That's just my personal opinion, but you can kind of see the design of the exterior. Really interesting. Really unique. I like that. And then the final product, they did a good job on it. I still think the renderings look a little better. I just think maybe they should have went with a more silver color for the, you know, beams or whatever, the curved beams. It kind of looks like steel. Almost looks like concrete a little bit. But either way, it is kind of cool, no doubt about that. And that is going to do it for the renderings versus the real life. Again, normally the renderings are going to look better, but it is still cool to see the difference. Guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you follow me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description.